So actually, to be really honest, this question of who I am is always a bit hard for me to answer, because in fact, this is a common struggle when someone tries to introduce me. They will say, this is Kelley and she does everything. So for better or for worse, I am a Jill of all trades, I think it really comes from the fact that I have many interests and I have many loves. So I like to write, I like to take photos. That was when I was younger, because I didn't really have an avenue to learn about design. So I spent my younger days doing a lot of that. I would have this dream about being a photographer. But as I went to uni and I studied architecture, a whole world opens to me, and I thought, yes, I want to be an architect or a designer or something. Finally, when I picked up software, I realized that, hey, I can create a whole magazine myself to combine all these things. It's an overused word now, but they said they are multidisciplinary designer. I don't know if it's good or bad, but if I were to describe myself, then yeah, I mean, I am truly, in every word, a multidisciplinary designer.
In 2010, we pioneered something called TEDx Women, and someone we knew recommended this designer that she said was going to be a terrific TEDx speaker.
The funny thing is that women designers almost have the same reputation as women drivers. And people look at you and say, women designer, are you sure you can design? You see,
she delivered this amazing 18-minute talk, and people in the audience were really rolling in laughter and in sheer delight at her storytelling and her perspectives on life. And in 2015, Singapore turned 50 years old. And how many times has the country turned 50, right? So, we decided to surface the most interesting stories, ideas, and people we could find in Singapore, and theme the event, The Undiscovered Country. We naturally approached Kelley again to ask her for ideas on how we could express this.
I think there is always this difficulty when you have to design something that is specifically Singapore.
And we actually had a lot of artwork which was already done by her and her team. And it was something that you and I would expect, right? Icons of Singapore, the Merlion, Ice Kacang, HDB flats. And we sort of looked at it and it's like, okay, this is great. It's really beautiful and fabulous.
I wasn't very happy with them. And so at the back of my mind, I still kept trying to comb for ideas, like waiting for that bright spark to come. And I was walking on the street and I was taking pictures with my phone. Suddenly it occurred to me that, hey, this picture that I just took, it didn't feel like Singapore. And hey, I've got hundreds of others on my Instagram that didn't feel like Singapore. And it just clicked. And I was thinking, yeah, actually I had it all wrong, because it was the undiscovered country and I'm giving everything that is so obvious.
And when you looked at it, you would never think that some of these images were actually Singapore. Even though we had decided and wanted to go with her initial design, fits so much better to the theme of the event that we went with that. And it was just brilliant.
It's my understanding that there were 200 different covers. Each of the catalogs had a different cover, and I think they printed enough so there were like 4 of each. So the point is that everybody had a different one. And it was really a surprising moment for people, because everybody gets these things in the tote bags and the swag bags at all these conferences. And there's a kind of repetitive nature. I mean, that's sort of the point. So to give people something that was a shared experience but was also unique was really cool. And everybody basically turned into a teenager collecting cards and trying to see if they could trade it. And then they realized they couldn't, which was, I thought, cool, because it forced you to not focus on collecting but enjoying.
Along the way, I became a bit of an accidental entrepreneur. And then we found this 4-story shop house, which was really charming, because the first thing that we walked in, we thought, wow, this is totally Wong Kar-wai. So it was a 50s building in almost original condition. So we have one spare floor, which we decided to have a bar. and also a gallery. Because there was a lack of such kind of space for the community, so I think it really successfully became a hangout place. There was this one night I was at the bar, this guy walked in, and so I took his order. He was taking pictures, like really curious about the space.
You know, it had a nice feeling of abandonment, and then you got around the corner and there was a feeling of intentionality.
So we started talking, and to my great surprise, he turned out to be the grandson of Ray and Charles Eames. So anyway, we had a connection, and we ended up talking the whole night over a few beers.
And I didn't even know she was the proprietress of the place. And we just hit it off, and I think I ended up staying there all night. Went up to the place where the artwork was, and it was kind of a gallery that wasn't quite a gallery.
And he was really surprised that a space like that exists in Singapore, because everything else is so clinical, so clean, but our place is full of graffiti, you know, it's really old and all that.
The drinks were always good. It was just had a perfect energy, and it's really hard to stumble upon that. We stayed in touch, and I would visit whenever I could, and I was heartbroken when it was gone, although by then I was a friend of Kelley's, and so I felt it had to stop when it had to stop, and you can't keep something going like that forever. It's kind of like a picnic. You eventually have to pack everything up sooner or later.
So Eames taught me something, and he said that his grandparent told him that being a good designer is like being a good host. I couldn't agree more, because I think when a designer designs something, you really want the design to work for people and for them to enjoy the design. Something that I bear in mind when I design. I think there is always that desire to seek perfection, even though you know it's somewhat impossible, but as much as I can, I would always push myself very, very hard, all the way to the end, so that if I'm not happy and I still have time, I think I will still want to make it better.
Ink Pulse is my first monograph that was published in 2017, and it documents 18 years of my art practice. So the title Ink Pulse is actually the pulse of the ink and the pulse of the artist, which is myself. We have so many images that is all, you know, in the clouds, but I want something that you can have all my best works in a tactile form that you can hold and feel and look through like a collectible.
She's a dream client because she states her objectives very clearly. She tells me like who's her target audience, how she hopes to position herself, and then she leaves the rest of the creativity to me. She said that you structure the book, you tell me what you need.
I also wanted more people to understand my thought process and all the different methodologies behind every series of my work. For example, the composition retreats, first I lose control by using the brushes and let the brushes make the mark with the wind, and then I gain control by choosing which marks I want to use and then scan them and then use it on silk screens. It's a very important project for me, and I wanted someone that is very capable to execute it. And out of all my friends, I think she's like the most talented.
It was a book that kind of brought me back to my East days, where I could do everything myself, and also orchestrating the content of the book. I think the result was very satisfactory for both parties.
We go to art openings together, and like she also come and visit my studio sometimes, so she really knows my work, and we also have worked on various projects together, so we have a good chemistry. That's why I chose Kelley for this monograph. I think it served more than what I wanted it to. Like, I think the book really helped more people to understand my art, and because of this book I have many other projects and more collectors buying my work. So I felt that this monograph really elevated me as an artist.
In my own work, I can try to seek for perfection, but you can never really get that kind of perfection, so you don't get that kind of satisfaction. But with teaching, I think the satisfaction is much more immediate. And it's very gratifying when you know that you have the power to make someone better. Take for example, if a student is really weak and finally you see this student achieving a good design, I think that kind of satisfaction is beyond words, and I really appreciate that feeling. I don't always have eureka moments, but what I believe in is about building visual depository. I try to look at dance, theatre, museum, look at different things every day of my life, and this is what I ask my students to do. Don't wait until you have a brief, then you go and look at Instagram or whatever, then you will have a tendency to go and copy. But enrich yourself with a lot of visual elements every day. You actually build up this depository in you. When someone gives you a brief, you actually draw from it, you know. Actually different ideas come up, pop, pop, pop. I see this before, I saw that before. And these things actually rojak come together, it becomes your design. So I asked myself what did I enjoy most, you know, in the 20 years. And I think my most unforgettable time was really when I was running Ish magazine. I think first of all, it was because it's a project with no client, but with an objective. And I think what was best about Ish is that I enjoy the part where I could tell a lot of stories. I enjoy meeting people, I enjoy interviewing people and framing their stories and retelling it to the audience, that I realized. So I think maybe moving forward, I would explore something in that area of how I can find a new platform to tell stories.
You know, noticed from the first time I met her in Night and Day, and had some nice drinks poured for me. And my grandparents were designers, and they used to say that the role of the designer is basically that of a good host, anticipating the needs of the guest. And if you think about Kelley's work, it's totally what it's about. It's, you know, everybody who, and it makes it very appropriate that she ran a bar for a while, and not just any bar, a really good bar, because that's truly guest hosting.